Good afternoon and welcome to this year's Meet the Candidates Forum here at Sikeston Public Schools, and we welcome all of you here this afternoon. And today you're going to get a chance to meet the candidates, get their opinion on the school and their role as school board members as we get ready for the election coming up here very, very soon. And so we're going to welcome all three candidates to the stage. They are John Graham, Scott Crumpecker, and Rebecca Steward. The candidates will open up with a brief statement, then we'll go to a question answer period where they'll have 2 minutes to answer each question. We have a 1 hour time limit. At the end of our 1 hour time limit, each candidate will have 3 minutes to give a closing statement. And we will go in order of how the candidates will be presented on the ballot. And so we'll begin with Mr. John Graham.
I'd like to say thank you all for coming out. My name's John Graham. Let's start this over. I'd like to say thank you all for coming out and giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is John Graham. I grew up here in Sikeston, was born here, graduated Sikeston High School. I have one son and 2 granddaughters. And why I'm standing up here, to talk with you all today about some things that are dear to my heart. And I'll get into that shortly. But I'd like to say thanks again for coming out, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Scott Crumpecker.
Good afternoon, I'm Scott Crumpecker, and although I have a Sikeston address, most of you really know that I associate with the town of Morehouse. My farm's just right outside of town. I grew up over there, but I am a product of Sikeston Public Schools. My wife and I both graduated from here. My son just graduated from here, and my daughter will graduate here in another 3 years. She's on track. There's a short bio about me, but a lot of you know me. A lot of you know where I stand, what my beliefs are. I will tell you that everything that I've done, and we've had some tough years here at this school, I've done for the teachers, for the students, and for the community. I spend a lot of my time doing service activities, and I put my life into service to others.
And now Rebecca Steward.
My name's Rebecca Steward. I was born and raised here. I was the second generation to graduate from Sikeston High School. My daughter is going to school in Sikeston. I appreciate the invitation to be here to talk to everyone, and I think most of you all know me as well. I've been on the board for 3 years, and it takes a while to understand really what your job is and the duties are when you're a board member. There's a learning curve for sure. And I've been honored to be a board member and to support this school district. I'm proud of our school district, and I want to serve it for 3 more years. Thank you.
Okay. And we'll begin with the question and answer portion, and we'll begin with John. John, in what ways have you supported public education?
Public education here in Sikeston, I've supported it by attending events, going to meetings, going to my granddaughter's events, our grandchildren's events, and been behind the sports teams and trying to stand with them through all the things they're going through. And I think we have excellent programs for sports, and I believe that that's what I consider great.
I don't know whether to sit or stand, but I'm a stander. I guess the biggest support that I've given the school system is my time and given of myself. People that are past or present board members realize what a commitment it is to be on the Board of Education. I have told people that, it's a commitment, not just 1 or 2 nights during a month, but it can be as many as 4 to 6 a month. And to some people, that's a little much. I have tried to make all of the events since becoming a board member. There have been some things that have gotten in my way that have been emergency related. And this last year, my son's school activities were something that took precedent over some of my school board activities. But I do support the sports program. Both my kids are in sports here. I guess, the thing that I support the most here in Sikeston is our spirit. And we do have good spirit. We're resilient people. And we want to see the best for our public school and our education system here.
Well, I talked a little bit about my support of the public school system in that I've been a part of it for so long, and so has my family. I actually taught as a teacher's, I guess, right when I came back here after I started working at the law firm, I substitute taught for somebody for a couple of months. And it was like the hardest job I've ever had. It was absolutely the hardest thing I've ever done. So I support our teachers, staff, the teaching staff. You do such a tremendous job. I've always been a supporter of the sports programs. I participated in sports when I was in high school, theater, music. I played in the band. I played piano for the choir. I think most importantly, what we have to support is our academics here, because that's really what our mission is. And I've always felt very strongly about providing the best education we can for the most children that we possibly can in the district. And that's where my focus is, besides all the other community things that I do that I think brings focus to this school.
Next question, we'll start with Scott. What do you feel the role of the board should be in directing the curriculum?
Well, I feel like the board is advisory in nature. The curriculum is something that we're charged to approve, but I also believe in the people that are bringing the curriculum to us. I think Chuck Mays is the leader of the curriculum development in our school district. I have a lot of faith in his ability to bring the curriculum to the board, and for us to look at what the teachers and the people that we hire in our school district to bring us to see that it is the best for our students. I realize that there are some curriculums that may not necessarily jive with what some of our constituents believe in. I think that we have faith in certain things in our life, and if we see some things being taught in school that we don't believe in or don't prescribe to, it may or may not necessarily be wrong, but we may have a little disgruntlement with that. But long story short, I think the board doesn't need to get way down into the dirt when we're looking at curriculum, but I do want to look at the people that are in charge of these curriculum activities to bring us the right material and the right things for our students and our kids.
Rebecca?
Thank you. I think it is my job as a board member, and it is actually dictated as my job as a board member and duty to approve curriculum. And in order to approve curriculum, it's my opinion that I need to see what that curriculum is. And I trust the people that are bringing me the curriculum. But in order for me to say, I vote yes, I believe that I need to see the resources and kind of an outline of what's going to be taught from those resources. And Mr. Mays has done a great job of that. Just recently talked about that at length. And it's very helpful to see that the resources are great and that the curriculum is something that we're very familiar with. And I think it's very good to be open with that, because that's our charge, is to approve it. And I don't want to be telling somebody in a community that I've approved a curriculum that I don't know what it is. So I think it's real important to find that balance of not overdoing it and not getting in the weeds, but also asking for enough information that you can feel comfortable that you can go out and profess it's great.
In what's been said here today, I believe the involvement of the board in curriculum is important. I believe the teacher's involvement in the curriculum is paramount. I think that us as a whole, we get dictated so many things from so many different places that we know what the teachers know what it takes to educate a child. And I think we need to look more at teacher input and take their value as to what they're saying to heart. Because there's no one that knows more about that class or those students or how to teach them than the educators themselves. And I think that if, as a board, we need to be behind the teachers. If they say something that, hey, this is not working, we need to start accenting the good and stopping the bad. Because all of us know there are things that work and things that don't. And I think as a board, the board should be involved in the curriculum. We should always get the truth told to us. We always should have the facts. And we cannot vote, and I cannot vote on something that I haven't personally read or understood. Because I think that would be a disservice to the voters and certainly a disservice to the educators. Thank you.
Next question first goes to Rebecca. As people look at the school board candidates and as we hear questions like that, your involvement on the board and curriculum, can you explain what expertise do you bring to the board that will help you in making those types of decisions?
Are you speaking about curriculum then?
Just in general, what expertise do you bring to the board?
Well, I guess the expertise is maybe not so narrow as it is broad. I've had a lot of experience in the legal field, both in and out of the political parts of the legal field. It teaches me to negotiate with people. It has taught me to listen to others, to listen to other opinions. It has taught me that I don't have to agree with somebody else's opinion, nor do they have to agree with mine in order for us to have a civil discourse and sometimes agree to disagree. I think that experience through time has helped me a lot in being on various boards. I also have been on a great number of boards, turned off a great number of boards, including the Chamber, Boot Heel Counseling. I'm currently on the Habitat for Humanity board. I'm the treasurer of PTO at Lee Hunter. I can't even think of all the things that I've done in terms of being on boards and trying to make decisions. But I'm not afraid to make decisions, and I'm not afraid to be the only person who thinks a particular opinion. And I'm okay with that, and I can be strong with that. But I also do my research, and I look into things that I have questions about so that I feel confident that I'm making the right choices.
John.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
Sure, absolutely. What expertise do you bring to the board?
My expertise is I'm both a father and a grandfather. I have about 10 years experience over anyone else on the board in solving problems. I'm 10 years older or about that. I've been on numerous boards. I've been president of many boards. I've been director of different boards. So my expertise is I do my due diligence. Everything that's presented to me, I read, I understand. If I don't, I seek advice to get that. And I think that as long as I'm in a situation where there's something brought to my attention or we have to vote or do anything like that, I will always make the determination that I'm going to study as much as I can to give the best and the correct answer that I can. And I think that with my life experiences as a grandfather gives me a totally different dynamic and a totally different perspective than others that are on the board. And that's what I look at is about life experiences. Thank you.
Scott.
Well, I too have to agree with my opponents. It is about life experiences. I can't look at the curriculum and tell that things are right or wrong. There are some aspects I may not like, but as far as telling people that they are teaching to the standard or not to the standard, I can't claim to do that. I can tell you that I can listen to people, and one of the qualities that I do have are my social skills. I think that I interact very well with people, and I think I listen to them. I think I'm very approachable to people, and if they have problems, they can come to me. And it's not people that I necessarily know. It's the people that I don't know, and the people that do have a story to tell, that I can take their story back and be that link to the administration. And I really think that's what a board member has to do sometimes. I also think that some of our duties are fiduciary. I have management from my farming experiences. I've worked for nonprofits through the government, and I've managed budgets. Now, the budget that Ms. Boardman manages for our district is quite a bit bigger than some of the budgets that I've done, but it's the same. The concept is the same. It's just different. But you also have to put the faces to the budget because there's a reality there. And we have had to face that reality before and face those hard decisions of budgetary restrictions. And quite frankly, that's hard to do. But at the end of the day, I can be that one on a 6-1 vote and still be the one that opposes it, but I can also come into that meeting and change my opinion based on what I'm told and based on what the feelings are of the community or of our teaching staff or of our students.
All right, John, we'll have our next question. This is really kind of a two-part question in a way. As you come into the school board, can you tell us what you think your job is, and is there a top priority of yours as you come, if you are elected onto the school board?
First question one more time.
Sure. What do you believe your job will be if you're elected onto the school board?
I think my job would be coming in to the board, not being on the board, is to get an understanding, and I've been going to board meetings, so I've been watching the way the business is done. I think that coming into the board, my objective will be to get to a point to where I can understand enough to make a valuable decision when I vote. The things that we are in. I'm so sorry. Okay. That was a fire alarm. Thank you. What I'm trying to say is my point of coming into the board is to learn and create something better than what I have seen, to get the students where they want to learn. Their value is to seek knowledge, and for the teachers to be able to help the child facilitate and be a facilitator to get to that point. And I think being on a board member, that is extremely important to be able to facilitate knowledge expansion for all our young people, because everybody knows that our lives are all the sum total of our life experiences, good and bad. So if we'll put forth the effort to entice the students to learn, our whole area benefits and their life will benefit forever.
I want to apologize to you, John. I had that happen to me the first time I spoke to this body, and I guess I'm a bit technologically challenged because I thought I had my ringer off, and I do apologize to everybody. I think there are several duties that we as a board must assume. We must approve the curriculum. We also must set policy for our administrators and staff to follow. And I think that's very important. That's one of the main reasons why we're hired. But ultimately, we are in charge of the number one person that drives our boat. And that person is Tom Williams, our superintendent, is accountable to us. And he is our responsibility. And he is who we evaluate. It's not the rest of the teachers that are out here. However, your performance can affect his performance. I think that since I've been here, there are two major obstacles that we were sought with, and that was hiring a board secretary and attorney, and then hiring a superintendent. And I was president of the board at that time, and I told the board, more so than anything, that was probably one of the most important things that we could have done as a board. And I think that any board faced with that challenge will look at that very seriously, because they've got to get the right person for the job. Second full question, can you repeat that real quick?
What would be your top priority?
Top priority is to get qualified teaching staff, not only to teach here at Sikeston, but to live in our district. There are a lot of people that are living outside the district, and unfortunately, they don't contribute to our economics here in Sikeston. They may be great teachers, and I'm not knocking what they're doing or where they're living at, but I think we've got to have them in our community.
Well, much of what Scott said that I would be repeating. I think that my duties as a board member are to adopt policy for the district. The procedures are left to the staff to do, the administrative staff. Now, that doesn't mean that if there's a question raised and maybe something isn't working right, we as a board would not come and say, hey, Tom, we think maybe this isn't working, maybe we should try something else. What are your ideas? I think that would be a duty of ours, to be an ear to the people and the students and staff, to be able to bring issues and address things to our employee, the superintendent. I think it's also our duty to approve the curriculum. It's also our duty to hire our staff. And I think we have an awesome staff, and we want to continue that. I think that our biggest challenge, the most important thing to do right now, is to build communication. And I think that's one of the things that as a board member, an elected board member, we do, is that we need to be approachable. We need for people to be able to come to us and allow us to direct people where they need to go in the system to get answers. We don't provide the answers. We're not the bosses, but we can direct and help lead the people who have put us in this position to where they need to go to find the answers. And that's what I think is important in bridging communication in the community between the school, the board, the staff, the administration, and our entire community.
Okay. Scott has the next question, and we're going to talk about communication in just a few moments, but I want to actually stay on something that John mentioned earlier, creating an environment. How does a school board member affect the environment of the school board itself and of the school system itself, and how do they do that in a positive way?
Well, I think we're charged to set the climate of the school in a number of ways. I think by attracting qualified teachers and paying them a good salary is one way. I also think by having infrastructure that we can be proud of and have a quality learning environment for our students is another way. I think that one of the biggest things when people are moving into a community that they look at are our school system. Now, I won't say whether people have not chosen Sikeston over other schools, but you do see some of these other communities around us getting larger, and Sikeston's actually losing population. We've got to reverse that. We've got to reverse that. There were over 300 students in my graduating class and Rebecca's graduating class, and right now we're not even graduating 200 people. So we've got to look internally as to why that is, why we're losing people in our community, and circumvent that.
Rebecca?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. How does a school board member affect the environment of the school board itself, the board itself, and the environment of the entire school system? Go ahead.
Well, I think first of all, by being, in the environment of the board is basically respecting each other's opinions, listening to others' opinions, allowing others to speak. And like I said earlier, sometimes you agree to disagree, and you can do that in a respectful manner, make your vote and move on. And that's what I think will build, the board's environment in a positive way. And then you said in the community as a whole?
In the school system.
The school system. AED. The school system, I think, one of the things we need to do is look at this as we are all trying to work together. And again, we may have different opinions, but it feels like kind of an attack environment. And I'm being on the school board for 3 years, it shouldn't be anybody pitting anybody against somebody else. It's not the school board versus the teaching staff. It's not the school board versus the administration. It's maybe everybody having a different idea, but just needing to be able to talk about it. And it's not about how many people you can put in a room either. Whatever your beliefs are, and what your opinion is. It's kind of we all need to be in this together to recognize that this is our school district, every single one of us, and that we all care about it, or we wouldn't be talking about it, and we wouldn't be having disagreements about it.
No, sure, no problem. How does a school board member, how can they affect the school board, the environment of the school board, and the environment of the school system?
I think that, to me, in observation, there's not anyone here that doesn't really love what they're doing and care about the students, not one. I believe that all of us, the goal is for when they graduate and they walk across that stage, they're at the peak of what they can do. That's the easiest part of their life. And when they graduate, they step off that step, and they're now into what's real life. And what we have to do is realize, have we given them the tools to live right and have a happy life? Have we given them the academic ability to continue on with life? Have we done that? And I think the way we do that is to allow more input from the teachers, allow the teachers to approach the board and have it listened to when they have a problem in a classroom or they have a problem with the curriculum. We, as a board, we need to be approachable more so than what they are right now. And I think that if we would listen more closely, the way we get things passed is to correct the mistakes. Like I said earlier, accenting the good and getting rid of the bad. And I think that if we do that, we'll create a better environment for our school. Because when I graduated, there was almost 400 graduated in my class. And I've seen it go down each year. And it's sad. Because growing up in here, I remember the excitement we had when we had ball games and things like that. But what I'm saying, if we get that same enthusiasm and excitement, like when the guys are going to win state, you know what I'm talking about, when you get all excited, we're going to win. We need to do that for our students' education. And I think that should be a big priority, and it is for me. Thank you.
Okay. Rebecca will have our first question, the next question. And Rebecca, you mentioned communication earlier. We live in a hyper communication age right now. Everyone wants information immediately, and social media gives us that information immediately, whether it's good or bad. Could you talk, and the other candidates also, talk about the board members' responsibility in dealing with their own communication with the public, and in that, communicating with the public on social media?
Well, I did speak on communication earlier. I think it's highly important to communicate what we're doing, what our mission is, what we care about, what we can do to help the process of making this the best school district we can. I'm going to tell you, I think everybody, whether you're a board member or you're not a board member, you have to be responsible with being on social media. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't even have a Facebook page. I don't do it. I have my own reasons for not doing that, but I don't have a lot of time to do that. I think it's fine to do it. The Twittering and all that, I understand it. And I think it's a great way to get a lot of positive information out. And I think we're seeing that happen with Twitter and our Facebook page, and that as a school district, we're trying to get out there and put all that positive stuff instead of just hearing the negative. And I think we've had a lot of success with that. So I think it's a very good thing. But I do think everybody has to be responsible for themselves and their actions. And if you're a board member, you have to be very careful what you say, I believe, on social media to not exacerbate anything in a community. That's not helpful. That doesn't heal anything. That doesn't help people come together.
Okay. John?
I too, like Becky, I do not have a Facebook. I do not desire to be on Facebook. I think that social media has its place, and that's just it, social. It is not some place that a board should be conducting business or sending messages back and forth. That's what email's for. That's what text messaging is for. Social media is non-retractable, non-returnable, and non-correctable. So when you put something on Facebook, it's there forever. That is something that everyone needs to realize. That's not something, just because you're upset one moment and you say it, there's no way to repair it. And there's no way to put something out that was confidential that should not be out. That needs to remain off of social media. And that's my opinion.
Scott?
Well, I do have social media accounts. I have Facebook and I have Twitter, and I try to use them in a positive manner. A lot of what I use them for, primarily to do with my scouting. I make notifications, and I think that is how the board should use these accounts for information purposes. They're there to send a story out. They're there to tell a story. They're there for people to show the successes of our school district, our children, our family, our friends, whatever that the people may want to engage in discussion about. I guess a lot of people call me a stalker because I'm a Facebook stalker, you know. I read Facebook every day. I look at what Tom posts. I look what Chuck posts on the school site. And I hit that thumbs up because I like what they're doing. And I know that we haven't been engaged real well as a school district with being up on social media. But I know that from some of our athletic programs, if you're a parent involved in those programs, you better have a Twitter feed or you won't know when the bus is leaving. I give a thumbs up to that too. But I think if they're used in a positive way, I think if they're used to tell a story, I think it's a great thing.
Next question starts with John. Safety and maintenance are two big issues no matter what school system. How would you address long-term plans for the Sikeston Public Schools system in regards to safety and maintenance?
Safety is the number one priority to me. That's something that should be immediately addressed. And there's a lot of lack in security in our school system. And I think that should be top priority. Given the date, the times, and what we face every day on the news, we need to find a way to update security. Now, the second thing is we need to start looking at maintenance on structures. The lack of maintenance causes deterioration of buildings, and I think we need to focus on getting a maintenance contract. I don't know what we have in place currently, but from what my observations are, we need to focus on maintaining our structures and getting them up to the right standards. There's no reason to have a roof leaking. There's no reason to have structural deficiencies, because if they were properly maintained, that is something that should be looked at on a monthly basis And when the custodial staff goes around, if they see something, it should be immediately addressed. Be it a crack, a possibility of mold or something like that, that should be addressed. And that's a maintenance issue that would save the school a lot of money, and it would help eliminate the necessity to increase new buildings and increase the public's idea of what the school system does. And I think that that should be the way it should be done.
Scott?
Would you repeat that again, Glen?
Sure, absolutely. Safety and maintenance are two major issues for any public school system, and how would you address in the long term?
I want to address the maintenance issue first, because we do have a great building and grounds crew here. Mike Brown does a lot of dedicated work to reviewing what's going on. The teachers and the administrators in the buildings, they give him a list. You know, there's a lot of Band-Aid patching that has to go on just because of our resources. But I think Mike has got a good head on his shoulder. I think he can look at something and let us know whether it can be fixed or if it needs to be replaced. So I think we're doing due diligence to what we have. But over time, if it's broke and it can't be fixed, at some point in time, you got to cut your losses and you got to replace. I agree with John that we could do some renovations, but there are some things that aren't worth renovating. The cost of renovating some of our buildings will exceed new construction. And I think that's what we've got to look at as a board. I think we've got to start looking at prioritizing these buildings that do need replacement and set a schedule for replacement or repairs. I'm not opposed to repairs. The second thing about the safety, when I came on the board, I noticed that there were schools that were not fenced. I think we've gone around to our elementary or kindergarten. We've got some of those things in place. I see Mr. Ezel back here that's done due diligence on getting single locks in all the buildings. I know that we are putting safety features for entry. It's going to be a hard deal to do here at the high school campus. But where we have one building, one way in, one way out, we can control who comes in. We can control who goes out. I spoke with Tom just recently about the highway patrol maybe having safety training for not just our school teachers, but maybe for our kids so they know how to react.
Well, I was going to say the same. A big, huge shout out to Mike Brown and our maintenance crew, because we see how hard they work, and they've had to continue to work, and I couldn't give them any higher compliment. I agree 100% with Scott on that. And on a lot of those issues I agree, because I've been on the board and I've heard what's going on. And there are things we can maintain, but when we have buildings that were built in the 50s, at some point we're going to have to chomp down and bite the bullet and look at what we need to replace. And I think it's going to have to be something let's just say we're talking kind of about a bond issue. Now, this one was not the right amount. It was too much, and we heard that very loudly. I had just gotten on the board. Those things were already in motion, and so I knew very little about where we were on that, and I had not really been a part of that. But at some point, I think we're going to have to do smaller increments, but we're going to have to look at our infrastructures, and we're not going to be able to continue to fix some of these buildings. They're going to have to be replaced. And I think we're going to have to start, and we are starting to look at what could be a feasible way to go about that, doing that in stages. On our safety, very, very important. And we are putting in place, as Scott said, features to have one entry, one exit, in and out. The Cincinnati campus that would facilitate that. And we have talked about having safety drills with appropriate aged children, which would not be the elementary schools, for instance, which would scare them to death probably. But I think we've got to look at our long-term infrastructure and find a way that is not going to be harmful to the pocket of the public who can't afford it and those who can't, and there are those who can't. But we've got to find a way to slowly build the things that we need to bring people to our town.
Okay, the next question is for Scott. Scott, obviously there are issues like the bond issue and others that may occur that are difficult for a board to speak about, difficult maybe even for the board to educate the public about. As a board member, if you're elected, how can you take those issues, keep them positive, educate the public at the same time?
Well, we tried that, and I think the community told us that we didn't do a real good job at that. A lot of what we did back in our last bond issue, I think we really spoke to the people that were on the side of a bond issue, and we didn't reach out to others. There are a lot of people in our community that they live on fixed income. They may be in support of public education and our benefits that we have and our works that we want to improve on, but they can't afford a big increase. And I think we are looking at different ways of making our way into that segment of our community that we don't have touch with. We have touch with all of our parents. We have touch with a lot of our social organizations, fraternal organizations, and such that are in town. A lot of those people wanted to see a bond issue. It's the other people that are grandparents that don't have kids, will never have grandkids in our school system, and we've got to sell the benefit of improving our school system to them. They've got to understand, and we're not going to get them to come here, so we got to figure out a way to get our message to them.
Okay, Rebecca?
Well, I guess I segued into that a little bit. I think we do have to proceed with taking some action, but I think one of the things that we need to do, and Scott's right, we were hearing a lot of positive instead of going further and deeper to find out who really was behind that big of a bond issue, and whether it was affordable. I think that we need to begin our communication process with our community for a long period of time and get a lot of discussion out as opposed to waiting too late, which is, in my opinion, I think it was a little too late and we lived and learned. But I think it's something that as a community we need to get everybody involved in talking about it and listening to everyone's ideas about what would be doable, what is a priority. Because I think that Sikeston, the school, is key to bringing people to our community and to bringing industry to our community, to having people who come with the industry want to live in this town and send their children to school here and to build our population back up in our school district.
John?
A while ago, I was talking about maintenance on buildings, and I realized that there are a lot of structures here that do need to be replaced, and that wasn't what I was talking about. Those things that are non-repairable or too costly to repair, I'm for doing that. As far as the bond issue goes, I was told by numerous people that if the bond had been proposed where we do one building or two buildings a year, when we did it incremented, there would be no problem with that. And I think that if we propose it and we have public forums and public input and explain to them, we're going to do it step by step. This is our goal. We're going to make this place secure. We're going to combine some schools. We're going to put them in one location. That, I think, would go along further than the large amount that was put out. Because there was a lot of people, and quite frankly, losing Duranda and some of the other businesses around here, people just don't have the money in the community anymore in the expendable income. So if we would look at it from an idea of small increments, I don't think there would be a problem. There's not anybody that wouldn't care about making our school better, because that's the number one thing when a business comes to this town is they check out the school and see the ratings of the school.
Okay. Rebecca has the next question, and this will be our final question before we do your final statements. So we've talked about a few things with the school system, about your role and your job. talk about what are some of the perceived strengths and weaknesses of Sikeston Public Schools, and what areas would you work to improve?
Perceived strengths and weaknesses. I think there is a perception that our academics are not where they should be. And I say perception because I don't believe it's reality. But I think we need to work to change that perception. And again, I keep going back to communication. It's key, getting information, positive information out about our school through the social media. I think one of our strengths is our spirit and our sports programs that we've got here, and the spirit that the Bulldogs have and that everybody in our district has for those programs and supporting our children who are participating in them. And it's a huge community positive. So, I think every school district has areas they can work on, and that's part of the job of the school board and the administration and the staff, is to work together to build our district, to build a positive image, because that is our reality. But we have to let everybody else know that. And so that's where I think we really need to continue to work.
What do you perceive, or what do you think the perception is of the strengths and weaknesses of Sikeston Public Schools, and what areas, or how would you change them?
Well, perceived strengths in our school, like Rebecca said, there are strengths that are related to sports. Our school is driven a lot by sports, and to the community as a whole, a lot of them think that our school's too focused on sports and not on academics. And I myself know that you get fired up at a ball game. And I think that if we get that fired up about education and academics for the students and the same emphasis, that would change a lot of perception of our school system. Because sometimes the smallest of things can make the biggest of difference. Now, we were at Matthews Elementary watching the kids get their awards, and watching the grandkids get their awards. And the excitement that was in their face when we were sitting there was amazing. And I'd like to see that for the excitement for the rest of the school, and so we can present that on to our city.
Scott?
I want to talk about the positives first, because if I run out of time, that's really what I want to dwell on. What's that saying that we're seeing right now? It's got a hashtag in front of it. We are Sikeston. That's a cool saying. It's not just something about Sikeston's football. It's not something about Sikeston's basketball. It's a community involvement. It includes academics. I also look at our academic program. Those people that are in the athletic program, they're teachers first. They were trained to teach our students. Yeah, they're teaching a sport, but I know some of them that are teaching good citizenship skills to some kids that don't have a quality home life. And that's a real good thing for Sikeston. It's a real good thing for our community. Some of the curriculum issues that we're having and some of the academic issues that we're having, I think is a perception, like Rebecca said. We do have some great things. We had a lot of Right Flight students come out of this last class, 2015. We don't look at that. We don't look at how many kids score 21 or above on their ACT. We tend to dwell on, well, Southeast is a focus school. Well, now Matthews is a focus school. Well, you know what? They're just changing the way they teach. They're going to bring that concept back to the other elementaries so that they don't have problems. I think if every kid had an individualized learning plan, We'd all have great academics, but we don't. But every teacher here, I believe, cares about their student and wants to see them succeed. And that's why we're great. We're Sikeston.
It is now time for the candidates' closing statements, and since we went through everyone 3 times with the questions, we'll begin with John Graham, who will give his closing statement.
If you don't mind, I'll sit down and kind of read this so I don't lose my thoughts. First of all, I'd like to say thanks again for allowing me to be up here and express my thoughts. I love this town, and I was born here in Sikeston. I graduated from Sikeston, and I went to continue my education in running successful business brand business machines until I was retired. And now I own a barbecue business, Willow Bill's Barbecue. I've been asked, why am I running for school board? I chose to run for the board so I can make a difference in the lives of our children and our grandchildren. And I pray you hear my heart. I want the students to get excited about school again and look forward to being successful, productive citizens with great academic success stories to tell their children and their grandchildren. And my plan will make that happen. We've seen the reports and the student evaluations at greatschools.org being rated at 3 out of 10, and that's just really unacceptable. And I know that we can do better. And I'm proud of our teachers, and I'm proud for the teachers' input to be brought back into our board of education. Just like the school's driving force in sports, I know we can put that same focus and energy into driving our students' education. We will be 10 again, and this town will grow and prosper because great schools and with great teachers is required for a student to be successful in life and for a town to be successful. A city must have great schools to grow and prosper. It's not only totally about new buildings, about iPads or higher taxes. It's all about academic successes. My plan will make that happen. We can and will be back on top of the right directional path, focusing on academics with the same emphasis as we do on the sports program. Let's get back to the basics, strive for academic excellence again, like trying to win the state championship. We can do it with a better game plan, and I believe I have it. Just like our school song sides, the red and black, do you all remember the words? There's a school in South Missouri who's known throughout the state. She's the school of highest credit, none other half so greater. We shall never cease to love her, nor honor shall she lack, as we go on to dear old Sikeston, neath red and black. It's all of that when I graduated, and it can all be that again. Children deserve it, and we owe it to them. We're getting ready for victory, and I'm ready. Are you? Then vote for me and elect John Grant and represent you to the school board. Thank you.
Now Scott Crumpecker.
Well, I've been on the school board now for 9 years, and they haven't been glory years. All of you know some of the difficulties we've gone through. For me, closing the school at Morehouse was pretty sentimental, pretty hard. But you know what? I had to support the board's decision, and we had to get on with what we were charged to do. We had to freeze teachers' salary for a number of years. That was very difficult. But you know, the superintendents that we had at that time, we charged them with keeping people employed. Because if we let people go, we were going to contribute to the detriment of our economy. We made a grave effort to keep our teaching staff intact. We didn't fall behind. You know, we made some tough decisions. Wasn't always popular. I think that my commitment to service, my commitment to the school, my voting record speaks for itself. I spent a lot of time away from my friends, a lot of time away from my family, and I don't regret it because I did it for the right thing, and it's for the reason that we're all here. It's the kids.
Rebecca Steward.
Again, thank you for inviting us to be here to share our thoughts with you. I am passionate about this school. I love this school. I have my child going to this school. She loves this school. Scott's right. There's a lot of work and a lot of time that goes into being a school board member, and it's not any grand position like, oh, look at me, I'm on the school board. I get to control everything. It's out of dedication and love of this community that I want to do it. Love for this school, my passion for education, how important I think that is, and how I believe in our mission statement that we're here to educate, comprehensively educate every child in this district. And that's done through great academics, it's done through great sports programs, it's done with theater, it's done with art, you do it with music, and we bring all of those things and more here in this district, and I'm proud of us. And I ask for your vote. Thanks.
We want to thank the candidates, John Graham, Scott Crumpecker, and Rebecca Steward, for being here today. And let me just say that for anyone who runs for office, my hat's off to them. To put themselves out there, to take the time to do what they do. Really appreciate you all being here today. We appreciate the Teacher Association for having this event. Whenever there's a contested race, they have the candidates here so that everyone can hear the opinions of those candidates. We really appreciate that. I also just want to take time to thank all the teachers who have taught my children here. I really want to apologize for those of you that currently have Riley or will have Riley later on in a couple of years. He comes by that mouth honestly. And I do want to thank you, my daughter Grayson, who is in college at Southwest Baptist and who is teaching or is seeking a music ed education. To me, speaks a lot about Sikeston. And when she tells us, we're doing this in orchestra, this in choir, gosh, we did that 2 or 3 years ago in high school. It says a lot about our school that, we can say, hey, we're doing stuff that colleges are just now doing. So I'm very appreciative of all the teachers and all you do, and the staff and principals and superintendents and the school board members. It's not an easy job, and we do appreciate you very much. So thank you again for allowing me to do this today. I try to keep my coughing down to a minimum, and because we do live in Southeast Missouri after all. Thank you again for coming this afternoon, and thank you again to the candidates.